Michigan Avenue is a north-south street in Chicago which runs at 100 East on the Chicago grid. The northern end of the street is at Lake Shore Drive on the shore of Lake Michigan in the Gold Coast Historic District. The street's southern terminus is at Sibley Boulevard in the southern suburb of Harvey. Though like many Chicago streets, it exists in several disjointed segments. As the home of the Chicago Water Tower, the Art Institute of Chicago, Millennium Park, and the shopping on the Magnificent Mile, it is a street well known to Chicago natives as well as tourists to the city. Michigan Avenue also is the main commercial street of Streeterville. It includes all of the historic Michigan Boulevard district and most of the Michigan Vaca Historic District, including the scenic urban space anchored by the DuSable Bridge. The oldest section of Michigan Avenue is the portion that currently borders Grant Park in the Chicago Loop section of the city. The name came from Lake Michigan, which until 1871 was immediately east of Michigan Avenue. The street at that time ran north to the Chicago River and south to the city limits. Originally, Michigan Avenue was primarily residential, and by the 1860s, large homes and expensive row houses dominated Michigan Avenue. At no point is Michigan Avenue currently called Michigan Boulevard. But prior to the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, the street was officially known as Michigan Boulevard and often referred to as Boul Mich. But in the 1900 to 1907 ads for the Chicago Musical College, the address was referred to as 202 Michigan Boul. As recently as the 1920s, North Michigan Avenue was referred to as Upper Boul Mich. Paris's Boulevard San Michel as the original Boul Mich. North of the Chicago River, today's Michigan Avenue was known as Pine Street. In 1866, a small portion of Pine Street was vacated and moved 80 feet the northern terminus, with Belgian wood blocks also known as Nicholson pavement. Pine Street was renamed to Lincoln Park Boulevard as far south as Ohio Street when the street connected with Lake Shore Drive in the early 1890s, and then became part of Michigan Avenue, which already had the name Michigan Avenue south of the Chicago River. Both the North and South Michigan Avenues were joined physically with the opening of the Michigan Avenue Bridge in 1920. In 1926, after years of clogged automobile traffic, the water tower and pumping station were separated by realigning Michigan Avenue to run between them. In the Great Fire of 1871, all buildings on Michigan Avenue from Congress Street north to the river were destroyed. Immediately after the fire, the character of Michigan remained residential, but the street no longer was directly on the lake shore. As after the fire, wreckage from the burned district was used to fill in the inner harbor of Chicago, beginning the landfills that by the 1920s had moved the lake shore more than a quarter mile east of its original shoreline, creating space for an expanded Grant Park. Beginning in the 1880s, the expansion of the Central Business District replaced houses on Michigan Avenue so that today, Michigan's character is primarily commercial north of 35th Street. The first city showcase on Michigan Avenue was the Exposition Building, which was built on the current site of the Art Institute, the east side of Michigan at Adams. In 1874, by the 1890s, an imposing wall of buildings was constructed on the west side of Michigan Avenue downtown, including the Auditorium Building and the main branch of the Chicago Public Library. As the east side of Michigan Avenue downtown was developed as a park, the wall of buildings lining the west side of Michigan Avenue across from the park became the nucleus of the city's skyline. In 1924, the first traffic lights in Chicago were installed on Michigan Avenue after John D. Hertz fronted the city $34,000 for the purchase, installation, and maintenance. Historically, Illinois Route 1 and US Route 41 were routed on Michigan Avenue. Illinois Route 1 has been truncated to Chicago's south side and US Route 41 is now routed on Lake Shore Drive. Michigan Avenue originally ended at the Chicago River, and what is now Michigan Avenue north of the river was originally named Pine Street, after scattered pine trees originally found in its vicinity. As early as 1891, plans were proposed to extend Michigan Avenue north across the river. An early plan called for a tunnel to link Michigan Avenue south of the river with Pine Street. And in 1903, an editorial in the Chicago Tribune newspaper proposed a new bascule bridge across the river at Michigan Avenue. This plan was further elaborated upon in Daniel Burnham's 1909 Plan of Chicago. And in 1911 a plan was selected that included the widening of Michigan Avenue from Randolph Street to the river, replacing the Rush Street Bridge with a new bridge at Michigan Avenue and the construction of a double-decked boulevard along Pine Street as far as Ohio Street. When the